to my podcast, Melancholy Guy Talks. And right now, I'm talking about recovery, living with addiction. In this podcast, I'm sharing my journey through life while being an open, polyamorous African American male living in recovery. I am the Melancholy Guy, Calvin, or CPJR if you know me. And today, I definitely believe that change I must or die I will. To learn more about the Melancholy Guy, go to Instagram and click the link in the bio. Also, with the donation of just $1, you can have access to my first series on ethical non monogamy, the fun stuff that started my podcast journey. See my Patreon page for more info. Links in the show notes and in the Instagram bio. So let's talk. Today is 6/16/2020, and it's been 150 days, 5 months, since I felt the need to pick up my drug of choice. Today's episode is Building a Life with a Recovering Addict, One Day at a Time, episode 61. The show will consist of three segments: the weekly check in, the discussion topic, and Ask an Addict question of the week. This is the format that I experienced the many times that I was in intensive outpatient treatment, so it seems appropriate now as this show is truly an integral part of my recovery process. Welcome or welcome back. Come on in, sit down. It is time for the check in. And today we have a very, very special check in. It's Family Day in the recovery and in intensive outpatient. I don't know if anyone who listens to this show has ever been in intensive outpatient or any type of recovery with family. It's very important to have family involved because, as they say, it's a family disease. Um, One addict in the family affects the entire family. So as the addict is recovering, it's almost important, always important to have the whole family, or try to anyway, in there with you. So today is and when I was in intensive outpatient recovery, they would have like once a month, I think it was, if I remember correctly. On Friday, it would be the family can come in, and they would go into their own session with the counselors, so they could just talk about family stuff, dealing with their recovering addicts or alcoholics, addicts. It's all addicts, um, and then we would all come together and everyone would just talk about issues amongst the group and with the counselor. So with that, today is a very special episode for me. We've been planning this for about, I don't know, since the 23rd, but with moving and everything, it's been rough. But Kemma is here today with me to sharing the topic and sharing some family recovery time. Say
Hey,
hello.
hey, everybody.
Okay, so I want to go ahead and do my check-in. So this week has been, yeah, this week has been pretty. I would say not hectic, but just a lot going on. Not in the busy sense, but just dealing with recovery and dealing with new life. Like I said in the beginning intro, it's 5 months today for me exactly, 150 days. So it's also the time last year that I started my adventure into crazy land, and like my total slide down started. I think it was the 14th of June. So it's like not that I'm being reflective, but just I'm in new territory. So it's it's a different place for me to be. I've always like worked hard at my job and stuff like that, but it's just a different place for me to be like totally focused on doing the next right thing and actually doing the next right thing and trying to be, a good partner. And so even though I do slip up at times, as Kimberly would tell you, and it's interesting to just go through that process. But it's also good to have someone who is emotionally intelligent, emotionally healthy, to be able to catch me when I'm slipping. That's been a difference. So even with that, I don't have the old traps I used to fall into. Of building, addicts like to build resentment and alienate themselves, and so the disease can run rampant in your life. So a lot of times when that's happening, I'm doing it to myself. Um, Kimberly has the wherewithal to be able to, step back and talk to me and allow me the space to talk to her and I have revelations like, oh man, this would have happened really. I see how this would have went in the past. You know what I mean? Like I see exactly what's happening and how this has played out and kept me in the exact same spot that I've been in for so many years. So that's my basically check in. I'm basically just dealing with new territory. And with that, I want to give Kim a chance to check in if she would like to.
I'm just excited to be here. Looking forward to the show.
All right, that's great. Good. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Actually, I appreciate it. So we're gonna go ahead and close that up and move into the next segment, and that's going to be um, building life with someone in recovery, and that's basically, I think, where we are now since we've moved in together, and we're both having to force this life together in recovery. I kind of want to say I've been here before, but I haven't been here before. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think that I've been in a relationship where I've been. I don't want to say allowed to recover, but I haven't been given the space to recover. Like in some relationships, I remember being, because I was actually thinking about it today when I was like in the group, in the groups, in intensive outpatient when the family was there. I remember liking being there.
Hmm.
4 days a week, you be there. You're with a group of people who kind of get it. They were in recovery. This is about changing our lives, and we're doing these, talking about life every 3 or 4 days a week for hours, and then being the family and sort of like. But then when it's over for me, that transition part of going into aftercare, and then it's basically the only thing they want to give you is the rooms in A or um, smart recovery, something like
Mm-hmm.
that, and seeing how well, that's great. Your the partners in the past would be like, oh, that's great. You spent 4 nights a week there for 3 or 4 months, and now you still want to continue going out to meet. They're like. It seemed to me in the past that they would be like, oh, when we gonna get back to our regular life.
Mm. So you would go to work and then go to the
It was every night.
sessions?
That's in called intensive outpatient.
I see. And it would
So,
be for 2 or 3 hours every night.
yep,
Wow.
it's like 3 or 4 nights a week,
Sorry.
and it would taper down as the time would go. So it
Mm-hmm.
end up you being aftercare and it'd be 1 night a week.
Gotcha.
But it was still pretty intense for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would be down when I was in it twice. I was in the same program pretty much twice, but it was downtown, so I just walked there from work.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be getting home like 9 o'clock,
Mm.
10 o'clock.
Yeah, that's all day.
So I guess it would seem like a hindrance to the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
but it was important
Mm-hmm.
because without recovery, like I would say
Right.
that recovery must
Right.
come first. Without recovery, there's no relationship, right?
Right.
Um, so and I guess for me, I talked about the show before. It's important to have boundaries in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, I understand what you're saying, right? You kind of want more in a relationship right now. I guess we started out having fun, all this kind of stuff, but this is serious. Um, but if I had if I had the space, I guess, to keep my recovery first, or it was something that I kind of thought was a reward, I don't know if I would have been. Nobody's fault but my own. I don't know. I can't play back. I hate to look back. That's one thing I would say about now. I don't look back as much as I used to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I don't. I don't know.
So, do you think if you were in the same headspace, like you've made a comment, like this is really your first time seeking recovery and not just seeking not to use, do you think if you had been in that headspace that it would have still played out, the same?
Um, I'm gonna have to fix that statement because I'm not sure. Because like I said, I thought about it today. Times that I was like in, I can say Colmac. I was in Colmac. In intensive outpatient, it was like I do remember liking it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I do remember kind of. like in that space to deal with the problem. But here's the thing, though. I think I was dealing with the. I was dealing with stopping. I was only willing to stop using. I didn't understand the whole life change. Change I must or die I will. Um, I don't think I was at that place. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I was ready to really deal with me. You know what I'm saying? The demons that I have inside, the emotional issues and the baggage and all that kind of stuff. So I think I was really to quit using, of course. But I don't think I didn't understand what recovery was at that point. I still didn't understand what it was, and it wasn't. I don't think it was modeled to me like that. You know what I'm saying? Because all I really saw was um, people just didn't who just stopped using it. I didn't understand like what recovery actually was. Like it was you were getting over some pain, some hurt. Because I never felt like I was hurt or I had pain. You know what I'm saying? I never really felt like I had issues of um, I would say neglect and abandonment. I didn't know I had those issues to deal with, um, and just coming to the point where and accepting it. Now it's not like I don't know. I still may have to talk it out, in recovery sooner or later, but um, I just know that that's there. You know what I'm saying? And then me wanting to always be, me finding out that being drunk or high definitely made you feel good, then that was the feel good. So then you have to deal with no bullshit. You know what I'm saying? But then that caused more pain. Of course, it stops working and it keeps going. Okay, so anyway, let's go back into what this whole thing is about. And this is about um, building life within someone in recovery, right?
Yes.
And I want to get your point of view. I found something on the internet, of course, and this article is called "The Do's and Don'ts of Dating and Recovery." Do's and Don'ts of Dating and Recovering Alcoholic and Addict. I didn't found it. You found it. Thank you for that. I had another one. This is a better one. So basically, I'm just gonna go over the do's. It's basically listed out, and I'm just gonna always read the first paragraph as I always do. Um, it can come as a surprise when you're dating someone who reveals that they're a recovering drug alcohol addict or alcoholic. It goes without saying that they probably led a lifestyle that seems vastly different from the one they're living now. They're living with you now. I talk about that often. While some people can easily relate to and embrace the fact that everyone has a past, others can find it hard to reconcile the two. Being in a relationship with a recovering alcoholic or addict certainly comes with unique challenges. Do you have a problem reconciling the two? Like I tell you stories about my past.
Do I have a problem reconciling what?
Like who I tell you the stories of when I was using and who I am living with you now.
Mm-mm. I don't. I don't
But
think I do.
you don't think you do? Does it seem weird when I tell you those stories? Do you see me living like that when I tell you the stories? Because there's some wild stories, right?
They are wild, but I mean, yeah, I can envision it.
You can envision it?
Hmm.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over the dudes, right? I'm going to go that what you, a person who's dating an addict who's dating a recovering addict should do.
Okay.
And you should assess their sobriety, right?
Hmm.
Um, so basically, one thing I would always say that it took me a while to understand about an active addict and a recovering addict. People used to you asked me about what would I do if I was with someone who was a using addict, was an addict, and I would say I don't know. But now I'd be like, no, you do not build a relationship with a recovering addict, with an active addict.
Hmm.
It's just you don't do it. It's impossible, right?
Yes. It
Right.
is.
So in your assessment of someone's sobriety, did you do that with me?
Yes.
What was your process?
So because I can recall over the last few years contacting you, and after the first few niceties, and my question would be, so how is program, or how many days clean? And I could always tell from your response, well, if the response was, well, you know who cares about days, or
I don't
or
count days.
counting days, that's some, what program, I told you I'm not in the program, and so that let me know, for me, that was my cue. Whereas this time, when I think I said something in the initial email about I hope you were living a happy, um, clean life or sober life or something like that. And your response was very different in that it was like, yeah, until I do that, nothing's going to go the way I want it to go. So for
Hmm.
me, that was the initial indicator that, oh, we might actually talk to each other for a few weeks.
Right, right. I think I was at that rock bottom emotionally where I just knew that nothing was going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I had actually gotten to the point where I couldn't trick myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't actually trick myself to the point anymore that I could sell the lie to anyone else that I'm going to beat this shit
Mm-hmm.
while trying to live the same old life I was living before.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it. Okay, I like that. So the next one is next do is accept the baggage. Addiction leaves some pretty unique baggage. Some people in recovery have occurred debt, legal problems, fractured family relationships. There are issues you have to discuss at some point, especially if a long term relationship. With that being said, it's essential that you be truthful about your tolerance level. And you know that I have fractured family. I just started working again. You know that I have all this stuff going on.
I
Oh, that was a
think,
side.
yeah, because I mean, for most people, I think that that is a really practical, necessary, like huge thing. I think that you are an anomaly in this instance, in that for a person to have used for so long, not that you don't have baggage, but compared to others, I think is really minimal when you know, weigh it against the intensity and duration of use.
That's a I mean
Yeah.
maybe I ain't
Yeah.
said it all, but it's a I did work. At times I tried to keep things. Luckily, I did have. I will say this though. Luckily, when I did choose partners, I chose good partners. You know what I'm saying? That helped me keep shit on a level. And luckily, I chose a career that I can work hard and keep my foot in the door. Without those choices, I don't think that I would have done it. And I also had a good family. My family's fractured, and I talked about that in one of my past episodes. They were a blessing to me. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I write on Facebook, man, I got my team. And there was many times I probably would have been homeless
Mm-hmm.
um,
Not
without
probably.
anything. I would have been homeless.
Yes.
Right. I would have been
Yeah.
homeless. I would have been on the street without them, um, holding me up, allowing me, again, the space to keep going. So, yeah. All right. So, the next one is be supportive. And this is something. Depending on the individual needs of your partner, it's probably going to be important that you avoid drinking or using drugs around them. Living, now I'm asking you about this. Living a recovering alcoholic may mean that your date dinner plans also need to be worked around group meetings and support groups. Now, the reason that I'm reading this is because, and I think it's interesting, because I decided not to drink in my recovery. My addiction is crack cocaine. I decided not to drink, right? And I don't feel the need to say that you don't drink. It's not a temptation to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have alcohol in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't pretend that this is going to be an alcohol free house. I don't require it to be an alcohol free house.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you feel about that? Do you feel that it's a temptation? Or would you listen to me if I said that?
Do I feel like it's a temptation for you?
Yeah.
No,
Hmm.
I don't. If you said it was a temptation, then yeah, it's not a big deal. I can go out and drink.
Okay. Right. And I think another thing about being supportive, if I know one way you definitely would be supportive if I had to go to meetings every night and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
shit.
If you
Um,
chose to go.
if I chose to go,
Mm-hmm.
right? Exactly. I don't choose to go. But I do go to online meetings. It's not a point of contention. It's a point of discussion
Yes.
in this household.
Great, great. Yes, great summary.
Okay. And another thing is don't forget about yourself. Recovering addicts often go to meetings and therapy sessions along with spending. I think you go to more therapy than me.
Most definitely.
So I'm very supportive of therapy.
One of us gotta go.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. I'm gonna go too. Okay, so that's the do's. So we go over the don'ts. The don'ts of dating someone in recovery. And this is a very important one. First one is don't allow yourself to be manipulated. And I'll say this again, like I always say. I think I've said it before. I don't know if I ever said it. Addicts, active addicts, are master manipulators because you have to be a successful addict. If you're not gonna be a successful addict. And I was a successful addict. So, but the whole thing here it is though. For me, being a successful addict, I manipulated myself more than anyone else because I seriously believed from my first marriage to my last marriage and all the relationships then up to this one that I was gonna figure that shit out somehow. As sick as I was, as toxic as I was gonna all of a sudden just wake up and be like, oh, I'm done with that. And then we gonna have this married life together as planned. Right? That's the game I played on myself. So imagine the game I could play on you if I wanted to play. Now, how do you feel as though do you look out for manipulation?
No, but that's because in my line of work, my lines of work, manipulation has been a tool that I've used, and so for me, manipulation it's not to the detriment of others, but what I would consider to the benefit of others. But the reason I don't look for manipulation is because for me it comes down to my boundaries. Like it's about what I can give while still taking care of myself. And so I'm going to give as long as it feels good to me, or do, or concede, or compromise, or whatever, as long as it feels good to me and I'm still taking care of myself. So you could, like, let's say, for instance, if you really needed something or needed space or whatever, I don't know, we argued and you needed me to apologize for something, and I felt like apologizing was going to dishonor myself. I, even if I owed you, if the mediator on the outside looking in said, no, Kimberly, you owe him this apology, but I still felt like it was going to dishonor myself, I wouldn't give you that apology, even though you genuinely deserved it or were genuinely requesting it. So, and a lot of people will say, oh, well, that's jacked up. I mean, but that's my boundary. That's how I have to take care of myself. And so, as long as I can feel good about taking care of myself, then whether you're trying to manipulate me or anybody else is trying to manipulate me, that's your business. Because I'm not going to allow anyone to make me dishonor myself.
That's some grown up shit right there. I understand what you're saying. I kind of, after we have these conversations, I'm like, damn, that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? If you honor yourself, hey, what I say, always remember.
See?
Okay, sobriety takes determination and commitment. That's the last one. I'm gonna close this out. Sobriety takes determination and commitment, as does being in a relationship with a recovering addict. Recovering alcoholics and recovering addicts know that the key relationships is honesty and openness. Use the early stages of a relationship to get to know one another, discuss triggers, and even boundaries. That's one thing I want to say about our relationship is that it's honest. Be able to talk about anything, and that has been a blessing to me. That's a weird word to use, but it's been a something that's been, I can say in this relationship I've never had a relationship that I've been able to be as dishonest in about me, who I am, that I don't really like football or sports and shit. I didn't have to try to fake that shit.
I'm glad it's something as important as that.
That's some real shit, man. Then I could play like EDM music and shit, and or play whatever kind of music and shit, and Also, I can walk through the house and hear some show tunes on any given day. Okay, so I just want to ask you one more question that's off that or from the article though. What would you what advice would you give to anyone who was thinking about dating an active or recovering addict? Because you will never date an active addict. Okay, Kim did not date an active addict. Okay, you know what I'm saying? That is the one thing about our relationship that I can say. She has every time she has smelled it, thought I was in active, she would just run away to take care of herself. Because I'm an asshole when I'm an active. I'm an asshole when I'm in active addiction, and they be like, "This nigga crazy," and disappear. You know what I'm saying? But she was a friend, and she kept in touch. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things she's never been through. It's one of the few things about our relationship. She's never actually been through me and active addiction. She's been around it, but never actually had the impact against her life. Um, that is interesting too. Um, so, what advice would you give someone who wanted to, or thinking about, or building a life with a recovering addict, and it's not going as well as it's going with us?
Go to find a codependent anonymous meeting
Mm-hmm.
and find a therapist and ensure that your support system and your self care system and your checks and balances are in um, place
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost. In any relationship, it's about how well you take care of yourself, whether it's with a shrink or an addict. It doesn't matter. It's about how well you take care of yourself and what your boundaries are. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you have to understand that each day is the present.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get to open that present each day, then that's wonderful. But you don't get a present one day and start thinking about, oh, am I going to get a present tomorrow? You just deal with the present that day. And that's a gift for me that I get in through my polyamorous ideology is that um, all I have is this moment. And so if you're with the recovering addict, that's awesome. It's a gift. And it's probably a really, really expensive gift because this person has chosen to leave something else that they're very familiar with to take care of themselves. But that might not always be the case.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand that their choices and their demons are just that, theirs, and that their recovery or their relapse are not due to you.
Right. Right. It has nothing to do with you at all.
No,
Nothing at all. It's
no,
not against you.
no.
It's
And
not
it's not, and
because
it's
of
not,
you.
and the recovery is not for you.
Recovery definitely is not for you.
You know, so what you're doing is just everything else is you're just benefiting. You know, and that there is going to be less for you. And that less could be less time because they're doing their 30 meetings in 30 days, or less time because now they're sponsoring someone and they need to have that service, or less emotional care because they're having to deal with the baggage that they didn't deal with, which is why they were using, and so they don't have the emotional fortitude to give you, or less money, or whatever it is, that there it is going to be less of something you get. And so that if you don't come whole and full and supported, then it's not going to be a really enjoyable ride. But if you come that way and understand that everything you get is a present,
Mm-hmm.
then it can be really, really sweet.
Okay, I like that. And I want to say one thing about the um just recently what happened just this weekend. We didn't get into anything. You didn't get into anything. You woke up on Saturday morning. It was a regular Saturday morning, and I had lost my mind again. Nothing happened. You told me like the energy feels different. I'm like, and I was in like I don't know full like mode of like this chick tripping, and I'm going to get up out of here. I'm checking bus schedules, everything, and it was just totally me. You know what I'm saying? And if you hadn't taken the time to talk to me, you know what I'm saying? And if you hadn't taken the time to talk to me and said, okay, well, this is how you want to be. This is how it's gonna be. And me taking the time to think about like This is my decision to make right here.
The ball is in my court.
Right, like she's actually fine. I'm like, wow, I just did all that on my own, and I'm like, that's it. That's when I realized that um, from my past relationships, we would have been in arguments over nothing, nothing. And so I'm grateful for that. You know, you having the emotional intelligence to handle that my craziness at times.
Oh, sure.
I appreciate that. So that's gonna be for that. It for that segment, and we're gonna go into the last segment, and I'm changing the name of that. It used to be Ask an Addict. I'm gonna change it to Ask a Recovering Addict. Every the day before or the day of, I post a question on Facebook. Ask a Recovering Addict. You can DM me a question if you would like about addiction, recovery, life, whatever, and I will answer it to you, or I will answer it on the show. Um, I've gotten one question from Kimberly. I haven't got another question, but then I will go out and find a question that's being asked in my groups and social media and answer it here on the show. Today's question is short but sweet. How do you get over the pain that you've caused your family? Here you go. This is how you get over the pain that you caused your family through your years of addiction. You don't. You don't get over the pain. You basically come to peace with it, and then you work to make amends. That's a spiritual step. I always say about making amends. I don't know what step that is. I think it's 5, 6, something like that. But it's about making amends, being a better person. The past cannot be changed. It just can't. And a lot of times for me, that's been a tripping point in my past addiction. I wouldn't say recovery. Just me wondering, like, oh, this is terrible. What's somebody gonna think about me getting recovered now? And I didn't get recovered for them then. I'm like, I don't. That's ridiculous for me to even think that way. So it's like eyes forward. Um, Intentions are what you live. You know what I mean? Like, basically, I have to be the person who I'm supposed to be now. I can't go back and be the person I was supposed to be then. That's impossible. It's impossible to live in the past. You know what I'm saying? So if anybody wants to come at me with some pain or we want to talk about, I could talk about it. Um, I can apologize for it, and if I need to make amends, I can make amends for it. But I could cry with you, maybe, you know, but it's gonna be very briefly, and then we're gonna be like, well, what can we do now, going forward? Um, so you can't really get over it. You know what I'm saying? That's one, you can't get over it, and you can't live in it because it's gonna drag you back down, basically. The beautiful thing about giving up alcohol is that I was emotional. I was an emotional drinker. Alcohol will always make me emotional. I'd be up, down, sideways. By the middle of that half gallon of vodka, I'll probably be somewhere crying, smoking a cigarette, or listening to music, laughing. It would be terrible. And after that, I'm off to the races. You know what I mean? So, um, one thing about what Kimberly's saying is being present, that helps me a lot. Just stay right here, right now. So the past is done. Let's talk about what we could do in the future. That's how you deal with the hurt from the past. You know what I'm saying? What could I do for you now? Basically, because I'm not that person anymore. All right. All right. So that's gonna be it for this show. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. We're gonna take a moment for the still suffering addict. Um, I always get emotional at these times. You know what I'm saying? Because I just know, like, I know the pain. You know what I'm saying? I know the feeling of being still addicted to something and being out of control and wanting um, something as simple as going and get a hamburger and can't, or going to work and can't, or just leaving a place that you don't want to be in and can't, because you just don't have the ability because you're just strung out or something like that. But it's possible to get clean. You know what I'm saying? It's possible. I don't want to say clean anymore. It's possible to become free from your addiction. It's possible to be in recovery. It's possible to unfuck your life one day at a time. Uh, there's groups, call somebody. Just reach out. You can reach out to me. I'm at cpierce at gmail.com. The Melancholy Guy on Facebook, Instagram. If you search for the Melancholy Guy, you will find me, and I will point you in the right direction because that's all I could do because I am not an expert. All I got is 150 days. I can tell you how to stay clean 150 days. That's it. That's all I can do. Here's what you do. Give away your money. And learn your triggers and don't be triggered. You know what I'm saying? And dedicate yourself to changing your life one day at a time. All right, so I think that's gonna be it for me. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Kimberly.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
The Zen Den looks great. Thank you for the Zen Den.
Partnership.
It's a great place, man. Chilling. I'm chilling. All right, so with that, I'm gonna say, always remember to love and respect yourself first, and everything else will take care of itself. Peace and namaste. Explain.